What up, YouTube? So today I'm going to go and do an oil change on my 2017 SeaDoo GTR 230. I bought this last December. Oh yeah, it's currently March 2018. So I bought this December 2016, but because the dealership that I bought it from was a horrible dealership, I didn't get this one till February. So I've had this particular ski for a year now, since February. I have 11 hours on it, which is kind of pathetic considering I live, right on the lake, but I guess that's life. But yeah, so I've had it for a year and I have 11 hours on it, and the manual recommends changing the oil every 100 hours or 1 year. So I hit 1 year, and then a lot of people claim that on your first oil change you should change it soon, or sooner than recommended, because of the engine break-in. So I thought, well, I'll try to be a responsible SeaDoo owner. I want to try to keep this thing in great shape. It's paid off. I paid it off last month, but I want to try to keep it in great shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do an oil change on it now before I take it out. I actually haven't went out on this since August, so it's been sitting for a while. But I figured I would just go and make a little tutorial video on how to do an oil change on it. It's not difficult. It's just a little different than changing oil in your lawnmower. Also, going along with me trying to be a responsible SeaDoo owner, I decided to buy the official oil changing kit. I was able to find it off of Amazon for $65. I noticed on Amazon, other third-party companies will sell SeaDoo oil changing kits, like non-official kits that come with generic brand synthetic oil, the oil filter, and O-rings. But I figured, since this is a brand new ski and I'm trying to keep it in good shape and it's still under warranty, I have a 3-year warranty on this thing, I would just use the official kit the first time. But next time I'm probably just going to go ahead and buy the generic synthetic oil and the generic kit, because one thing I was disappointed with is this kit on the O-rings, which comes with the oil filter. It doesn't come with the O-ring for the actual bolt that holds the cap on, which I'll show you later. And it seemed like the unofficial kits, where they put together the O-rings for you, they actually include that same O-ring. This one only comes with the 2 O-rings for the cap of the oil filter, none for the bolt. Unless it's stuck inside the middle of the oil filter, but I don't think it is. Okay, let's go ahead and change the oil. Okay, first thing I'm going to do before I even start is just check the dipstick on it, and hopefully I don't have a brand new ski that's leaking oil, but I'm just going to check to make sure that the oil level is correct to begin with before we start. And yep, we have oil clean up to the indentation, so the oil level is correct. Okay, so next thing you want to do is to run the engine, get the engine warmed up for like 5 minutes. So in order to do that, you do need hose adapter. You can get them. I bought mine off of eBay, pretty cheap. It's a lot cheaper than the official SeaDoo one, to run water through the impeller. Now, on this model of SeaDoo, it has a closed cooling system, which actually has antifreeze, and it has a metal plate on the bottom that acts like a radiator that antifreeze cycles through. So on this model, when you're running it dry and running it through the hose, you're not cooling the engine. So you don't want to run it for more than 5 minutes, because water isn't actually touching the little radiator metal plate at the bottom of the SeaDoo, so it's really not cooling it that good. But you do still need to run water so you don't burn up the seals in your impeller. And number 1 rule of hooking a hose up to your SeaDoo is you never run water through it while it's shut off, because the water pressure could push back the seals on the impeller. So you want to start it up, then turn on the water, and then when you go to shut it down, you want to turn off the water and then shut it down. So you take this little adapter, you screw it into the back of the SeaDoo, and we're going to go ahead and start it up. For those of you who are cold start enthusiasts, this is the first time the SeaDoo has been started up in 6 months. Here we go. You put on the adapter, you turn on the water, and we have water flowing out. And there's also a water check hole right there. So you just want to make sure you have water cycling. When you do a clean out at the end of the day, SeaDoo recommends revving it up to 5 grand for 5 seconds. But I'm not trying to clean out the impeller or anything. I'm just trying to warm up the engine. So we're gonna let it run for a minute or two like this, and then it'll be warmed up. Okay, so it's been running for a good 3 minutes. I'm gonna say that's good enough. So the first thing you wanna do is shut off the water, and then you wanna shut off the jet ski. Okay, now we're ready to actually start changing the oil. Okay, to extract the oil, you need to get some kind of pump and extract it out through the top of the dipstick. Now they make fancy oil pressure transfer pumps. I decided to cheap out. I got this with a coupon from Harbor Freight for $5, and I took some pneumatic hose that was small enough to go through the dipstick, and I zip tied it and electrical taped it to the end of the hose to make it small enough. Now the magic number people are saying are 18 inches for the length of the hose, but pretty much when you stick it in the dipstick, you are going to bottom out. Once you bottom out, you just want to pull it back just a little bit so it's unrestricted, and then that'll be good enough. You also want to keep track of how much oil you take out. So we checked with the dipstick, and we know that it has had the right oil level in it. So whatever we pull out of it, we want to put that same amount back in it, and then we know our oil levels will be right. The kit came with 1 gallon of oil, which is probably, I'm anticipating, is way too much. I have a feeling that I'm going to be pumping out probably 3 quarts of oil. So I have this container that keeps a measurement, so I'll know exactly how much I pulled out. Okay, so like I said, you take the dipstick out and you put your tube in through the dipstick. And actually, I'm going a little farther. So I'm not actually bottoming out, but I'm pretty confident that that is down towards the bottom, even though it didn't physically hit a wall. Another thing you want to do is you want to go and open up your oil fill cap that's on the header, or the valve cover, excuse me. So you want to take your oil fill cap and unhook it, so then that way you're not fighting against the vacuum. Okay, so then you want to take the outside of the pump and you want to put it in your container. You don't want to have an oily mess. And now you want to begin pumping. Okay, and we successfully are pumping it out. So actually, I do see that the oil is a little dark. So I am kind of glad that I am changing the oil so soon. Okay, now that I have quite a bit out, I still have plenty to go, but I'm going to take a little break, because what you want to do is, at this point, you want to crack open your oil filter. Okay, so now we want to crack open the oil filter so more oil will drain out into the bottom of the crankcase so we can pump it out. In order to take your oil filter off, you do need a E-Torx 10 socket. So E-Torx or external Torx or inverse Torx it's called, is when the actual torque is on, the Torx head is on the head of the bolt, and then your sockets have a Torx socket. So it's an E10. Okay, so that's filled up with oil. Once you open that up, hopefully the vacuum will release and that oil will go into the crankcase, and you want to continue pumping out your oil. Okay, I pumped as much as I could get out of there, and I even pulled the hose out and put it back in and twisted it to try to get into a different spot of the crankcase and pump some more. So I got as much as I think I'm going to possibly get out. So now we want to pull the oil filter, which we cracked open earlier. We want to pull it all the way out. And my oil filter is kind of hot. I don't know if it's from the sun hitting it or if it's from the engine running a little bit. And then you definitely want to make sure that you don't have any oil running down the sides here. I also see a little bit of oil still sitting in the oil filter reservoir. Oh, I'm dripping. I didn't want to do that. So I want to, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this because I'm just making an oily mess. So I'm going to try to pump it out. Okay, so I got that. Although it probably wasn't worth it because, oh, there's some down in there. Okay, but that probably wasn't worth it for the amount of oil that I splashed inside the engine compartment. Okay, so now you want to take your old oil filter and you want to pull out the old oil filter. And you want to undo these two O-rings right here. Now, just an FYI, the official SeaDoo kit did not come with the O-ring for the bolt, but there is another O-ring for this bolt right here underneath this head. You would have to take the bolt out. And so if your kit comes with an additional O-ring, that's where you put the O-ring, right in there. And first you take the skinny O-ring, you put the skinny O-ring on, and on the top of the oil filter, or on the top of the cap, just like that. And then you take the thicker O-ring and you put it on the bottom. Being careful not to nick it, but these O-rings are very pliable. And then you take your new oil filter, and your oil filter is the same on the top and the bottom, but you definitely want to push it in and you want to fully seat it. So you put the bolt in the middle and you definitely want to fully seat it in there. So it's seated. And now you take this and you put it back into the jet ski. So now you take your new oil filter assembly and you just stick it into the top and you just very carefully. Push it in. And you start the bolt through the top. You don't want to cross thread it, so just start it real easily. And once you get it, it'll start sucking in the top. And you just want to make sure that those O-rings don't pop out. Now the good news is there's oil already lubricating the sides. Okay, so I actually have a problem here because the bolt just bottomed out and the cap isn't all the way on. Okay, after Google searching it, it seems like that this is the way that it's supposed to be. You will be able to see the top O-ring in the gap. There is a gap, so it doesn't go all the way down flush. You can see the top O-ring. As long as the main O-ring is seated down in there, you're fine. So I tighten the bolt, and you don't want to over torque the bolt. The bolt will come to a stop, and you just make sure it's not loose, but you don't want to over torque it, just like putting your oil plug in on your car. So now that we got that back together, I'm just going to try to wipe some of that oil that I flung around. We're ready to put in the new oil. Okay, so here's the old oil I extracted out. And I extracted just a little less than 3 quarts. So I'm going to put a Sharpie mark where the line is, and we're going to dump this oil out, and then we're going to fill it up with the new oil. So as you can see, the oil is not too dirty, but it is a little dirty. So this is the oil that comes with it. And the user manual just tells you to get XPS oil. And then when you buy the oil, it just says XPS summer grade. 1 gallon of it. It doesn't really tell you what the weight is. I guess they don't want you buying your own oil, but I'm sure people online will give good insight on what oil to actually buy. And it's a synthetic blend. Okay, so now we're going to fill this up to a little less than 3 quarts. The new oil doesn't have any measuring marks on it, so the only way to really do it is to fill back up into the container and do that. Okay. So unfortunately, or maybe for some of you, fortunately, these last 2 clips my mic was turned off, so I didn't get any audio. But here I'm just adding the new oil through the oil fill cap. And then I go and I tell you guys to double check your dipstick, make sure the oil level is right. But the way we did it, by measuring how much oil we took out and putting the same amount of oil in, we shouldn't have any problems. And then after that, I go on a little rant about how on my last jet ski video, everyone asked me about fuel consumption. And I explained that it very easily, when you're gunning it and just having fun, going hard, it'll very easily do 16 gallons an hour, sometimes even higher than that, and it has a 16-gallon tank. So if you're running it real hard, you'll only get an hour's worth of fuel out of the tank. And I explained to people that if you're worried about fuel consumption, this isn't the jet ski for you. But I also tell everyone that I have no regrets buying this jet ski. I like having the performance out of it, and the thing is stupid fast. Like, it'll jump out of the water. If you have it in sport mode and you put it on full throttle, you can't even full throttle it because that's too much, but it'll literally jump out of the water and instant plane. And I think that's what I was explaining right here, just talking about how fast it goes. And I can't imagine SeaDoo makes a 300 horsepower jet ski. I can't imagine like what you would do with that extra horsepower, because definitely I don't use the whole 230 horsepower with this jet ski. But I hope you enjoy this video. I hope that it was a benefit to you to see how you change the oil. And it's not actually that hard. It's just a little different from changing an oil in a lawnmower or what have you. So, thanks for watching.